So, hello and welcome to our interview with Ann Nkune from Bloomsbury Beginnings. And Ann's going to introduce herself in just a moment. But first of all, I'm going to say a little bit about the Eastside Primetimers Foundation. So I'm Ruth Cane, I'm the manager for the Eastside Primetimers Foundation, and I work with them in a number of different ways, including as a career coach and helping people to make a transition from another role that they've had or a previous career into the social sector. And that's really what today is all about. The foundation does take a wider interest in the world of work, and we're very keen and work hard to promote the social sector, not only as a place that does good work, but as a place which actually offers good work as well. So that's really important to us too. So quite often we find when we're talking to people about making a career change that one of the things they're interested in is starting their own organisation, and that can be because of a really strong personal experience they've had, or a situation that they found themselves in, or a member of their family or someone that they care about has found themselves in. And they feel that actually the best way for them to make an impact in that area is to start their own organisation. It's quite a risky thing to do. It's incredibly challenging. And that's why we've got Ann with us here today, because Ann helps people to start their own organisation and really work from the point of thinking about your idea, and is it an idea that's actually going to be of value to people and that other people will want to get involved and engaged with. So I mentioned earlier that Ann's organisation is called Bloomsbury Beginnings, and I'd just like you to tell us a little bit, first of all, about you and about Bloomsbury Beginnings, and really what made you start your own organisation.
Great, thank you, Ruth. It's lovely to be here. Yes, I'm Bloomsbury Beginnings founder and director, and we've been around for about 8 years now, and very much in the same kind of field that the foundation is, in that we're helping people to think about who are going through big career changes, big personal changes, and who are thinking that perhaps they have an idea that could become a proposition, an organisation of one sort or another. What got me to set it up in the first place was quite a personal story, in that I had a friend who committed suicide, and it was very out of the blue. I thought that she was doing fine. In fact, a whole group of us thought she was doing fine, and suddenly she suddenly wasn't there. And I realised that I hadn't had the conversations with her that really understood the kind of massive personal and career change that she was going through. Actually, as a mum of two very young children, and that sort of sparked me to have discussions with a lot of other women that I knew, some of whom knew Michelle, and then a broader range of people who were going through this great big personal change, and often a big change of their professional identity as well. And I wanted to know how I fit best in terms of offering a value in what I was able to give. I had a background in consultancy and working in social enterprises and in social work as well. And in my discussions with these women, I realised that actually a lot of people had some really interesting creative ideas that they wanted to develop. They were often kind of mission-based ideas that could turn into small projects, they could turn into new careers, they could turn into organisations. And actually, I was amazed by the level of productivity and proactivity and talent and skills that these people that I was coming across had. And that kind of led to me deciding that actually I was probably in quite a strong position to bring people together to help them think about their potential business models or their organisations models, and to support each other through the sort of personal and professional changes they were going through. So we started an incubator, basically a small, very informal self-help incubator, but it had 12 would-be founders on it, and it included a couple who were looking at creating slings that were safe for very small babies, because that wasn't really in existence at the time. There was somebody who was interested in doing a pram upcycling venture, so you know, a we buy any car version with prams and buggies, and quite a high-profile comedian who was wanting to do a comedy series for parents who had very young children called Screaming with Laughter. So that was our first group back in 2014, and we've kind of grown from there.
Great, thank you, Anne. And I think one of the things that's really come through in what you're talking about, well, two things. One is this thing about this personal enthusiasm and commitment to it, and that comes through really strongly. And then the other thing is that we're talking here about organisations which have a very strong kind of commercial element to them. They're there for some sort of social and environmental good, but actually they are running in a way that is like a very kind of trade business focused. So just to be clear for anybody that's listening, that's the sort of organisation that we're talking about. Some of those will be social enterprises, but there'll be lots of other different business structures. So you've worked with around, or even probably more now than 500 people wanting to set up their own organisation. And you've mentioned a couple of those people that you were working with at the start. But could you just tell us about one of your favourite ones that you've supported and that you've helped to kind of come to fruition?
Yes, I mean, in fact, yeah, I've supported so many. There's such a huge variety, but one that I thought is a bit of a contrast to some of the ones I was just speaking about there is an environmental organisation, social enterprise with a brilliant name called Mad Leap, which actually stands for micro anaerobic digestion, and then leap, because they want to help us to sort of take a bigger leap into the circular economy. They've got some really innovative technology that they're working on to try to help improve how food waste is managed, particularly in cities. And it's been a real pleasure to work with them, particularly because they are doing a demonstration site in a local community garden that I've had a long association with, where they're developing these processes of creating very powerful fertilizers, which then help grow crops locally in the community garden, which then are sold in community cafe, and the waste from that then goes back into the digester. Now, actually, that is quite a complex set of business models actually that needs to go into making that work, and they've got a lot of different potential income generating streams going on there that I've been helping them to sort of develop in terms of who their core customers are, what their kind of bigger purpose is, and then what are the first steps, because actually, you know, creating traction for them is hugely challenging. So it's been really interesting to see, and to see how they can kind of develop their proposition through things as simple as really, really great compost, you know, that they can sell, and of course that, you know, that market has suddenly kind of exploded recently. So they're one of the environmental propositions that I've been working with alongside people who are doing more sort of social impact work as well.
And I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking, you know, well, how's this whole sector faring with COVID and the pandemic and the lockdown? And it's interesting there that there are some, you know, when you just talked about compost, I mean, nobody would have thought that the compost market would go so berserk. Everybody's at home wanting to do their garden. Well, people who are lucky enough to have a garden. So there've been organisations who have probably found their services under increased pressure in a positive way during this crisis, as well as organisations that have been really struggling. And I'm sure some of those are organisations that you'll now be working with on how they shift their proposition and think about themselves in a different way. And one of the things that I'd really like your view on as well, Anne, is what it is that you think people find most rewarding. I know this is a very general question, but what it is that people love about running their own organisation, whether that's a social enterprise or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think at the core it is being able to pursue your purpose, you know, and to have a role that actually you can feel that you are creating meaningful change, you know, usually to a problem that you have generally felt very strongly about for a very long time. So there's that sort of core drive that you know, keeps people in the sector in whatever role, but particularly if they're leading an organisation and they're able to shape that agenda. And then I think also the process of starting up is a really fascinating one that people actually really enjoy. Often it's not quite the process that they think it's going to be, but actually certainly when they come to the groups that I run, where they're able to sort of compare experiences as well, they get an opportunity to really think through how other people perceive those issues and to think through the tricky issue of making it sustainable, financially sustainable. And that, yeah, that is very rewarding. The process of doing that is very rewarding because it's so eye-opening a lot of the time. And there are, you know, there are just a lot of different routes that you can take to sort of pursuing the value that you want to, and pursuing the solving the problem that you want to solve. So I think I tend to be with people at a startup phase, but I'm often actually with people who are trying to, who've tried it a few times, you know, trying to get it right and actually struggling a bit, and are able to step back and say, okay, you know, how can I look at this differently? And those people are, you know, very wise. They've gone through, you know, a variety of struggles. They actually know what doesn't work a lot of the time. And yeah, and it's a great pleasure to be working with those people as they sort of perhaps reshape their proposition a little bit, and perhaps, you know, kind of go back to first principles sometimes about how it's going to work best.
I think that one of the big challenges for people around a social organisation of some sort is this fact that, you know, you're really, really focused on delivering a benefit and a change, a positive change, whether that's for people, for the environment, for both, and running a very commercial enterprise as well. So it's the two things, isn't it, that really make it very challenging. And just thinking about that challenge in a little bit more detail, in your experience, what have people found the toughest thing to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the toughest thing to deal with is apathy, actually, that people don't realise how difficult it is to get noticed. So people will often have worked quite long and hard on developing a solution that they love, and that other people in general terms have said, you know, particularly friends and family have said, wow, that's amazing, you know, that sounds like a great idea. But then actually getting noticed for a social enterprise particularly, you've got to get noticed by 3 or 4 different audiences. So you've often got a paying audience of funders, a paying audience of individual customers, a non-paying but still paying with their time and emotion and effort participants in your programme. And you've got regulators who aren't going to pay you, but they could certainly you know, stop you achieving what you want to achieve. So actually getting noticed and then getting adopted by enough people in each of those areas is very, very challenging. And I think people, yeah, often that's, yeah, finding something that will get you and your organisation, and having some separation between you. You know, you feel very personally invested. It's, you know, nearly always your baby for, you know, this organisation. So it's, you know, it's difficult to deal with that level of what often feels rejection, but is usually that you're just not able to sort of hit the top of the agenda for, you know, for the customers that you want to be engaging with. So that is, you know, it's tough, but actually you can, there are some strategies to make that a lot easier if you kind of start with the right processes, basically.
Mm-hmm. And just thinking about some of the people that talk to us about career change, quite often having had a strong corporate career, they've had an HR department, they've had an IT department, all those sorts of things. And, you know, when you talk to them about what they're anticipating, you know, and what, how different it will be, and talking about the fact then that you're going to be balancing this fantastic autonomy and working with a really strong sense of purpose against the fact that actually you're going to do everything yourself pretty much at the beginning, whether or not, I don't know whether people don't lick stamps any longer, do they? But there's occasions when you might be sending a letter or something, or whatever it might be.
The Instagram equivalent.
Yeah, you're going to be doing it all, aren't you? Yeah. So, and you just said there that there are things that people can do and kind of strategies that people can use to help them to make a good start with this. What would be your one? I know you've got loads of things, so it's tough to ask you to pick something, but just one bit of advice you'd give to people who are thinking about this change.
I think it's not to become too wedded to a solution and not to invest too much time and energy in one particular solution, or even, dare I say it, absolutely being wedded to run an organisation, because in fact, you know, a lot of people who go through our programme, it allows them to review and say, actually, I can probably deliver my value. You know, so about a third of them, I think, you know, they will continue to deliver their value through heading an organisation, but, you know, their leadership value might be, and their ability to deliver their value might be in other settings. So don't wed yourself to that solution in the big picture, but also if you are running an organisation, be flexible about the solution that you're going to be put in place. What you need to really understand is the proposition, the benefit to your customers and your participants and your other stakeholders. That's what you need to be clear about. And then you need to have a group of early adopters in each of those sectors who will help you develop the solution. So you obviously have to come up with something. You have to have a minimum viable product, if you like, that people can you know, that you can kind of test whether people are going to engage with you, but actually don't spend weeks, months, years developing a really sparkly solution, because chances are you will have to change it. Most successful, pretty much all successful organisations in whatever sector change the solution that they're working on. So just making sure that you've got a built-in process of measuring, reviewing, changing that solution, but really, really understand what your core value proposition is. Oh, and another thing is don't give people things for free that you're later going to charge them for. Even if you do give it to them for free, make sure they understand the value and you understand the value of this product or service you're going to give them, because it's really important that you establish the value that you and your organisation is offering right from the start.
That's brilliant, thank you, Anne. And one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this interview with Anne was that several weeks ago we did a whole seminar that Anne led for us on really testing out your proposition if you're thinking about starting an organisation, or if you're having to shift and turn it around and adapt to different circumstances. We had so much interest in that and lots of questions around that, so we'd asked Anne to come back and do this interview with us. But we are planning on running another of those full workshops, so do look out for that on the EP website, on the Eastside Primetimers website, and people will be able to find out about it as well on through Anne's contact details at Bloomsbury Beginnings. But Anne, thank you so much, because I know this will be incredibly valuable, and every time I talk to you I learn so much about things. So we're really looking forward to doing that next workshop, and see you soon. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ruth. Bye-bye.